Good Friday morning, everybody. Chris here with High Seas Cruising, and welcome to today's video. Now, anybody that's booked a cruise, looking to book a cruise, planning a cruise for the future, I'm sure you notice cruise prices continue to be high, and they get higher month after month, year after year. They're going up. And you may be asking yourself, when are they going to reach the peak? Are cruise prices ever going to go down? Well, after looking at the earnings call for Royal Caribbean for the second quarter, I'm honestly going to say those prices are probably not going down anytime soon. Royal Caribbean reported they still have a very high demand for their cruise product. Now, this is even with higher cruise prices. People are still flocking to book a cruise. The average cruise ship in the second quarter for Royal Caribbean was sailing at 108% capacity, which means if people are booking and sailing at higher prices, well, the prices are not going to be going down because why would the cruise lines lower them? And all of that equates to big money for the cruise lines. In the second quarter, Royal Caribbean reported $4.1 billion. That's billion with a B for total revenue with a net revenue of $854 million. That's in the pocket money. So while the cruise lines were struggling just a couple of years ago, they definitely do not appear to be struggling now. Next up, Carnival Cruise Lines. They have put out some new security measures for their website to help protect your bookings. And this change is coming about because I'm sure everybody paid attention. Everybody noticed that there was a big snafu over at Carnival Cruise Lines a little bit ago. Someone had booked the presidential suite on board the ship right before they were heading to the ship to get on board. Their booking was canceled, and it turns out it was identity theft. This individual, she had posted their booking number right there on their Facebook page. Somebody took it, created a fake account on Carnival's website, put in that booking number, was able to take control and cancel their booking. Well, these new security measures are now in place to kind of help that from ever happening again. So previously, when you were adding a booking, you just had to know the booking number and the passenger's last name, and you could add it right onto your login and access that booking. Well, now it's been changed and you have to put in more information. So you're still going to need the booking number, you're still going to need the last name, but you're also now going to need a date of birth, the ship name, and the sail date for that specific booking. And these changes should help prevent someone from doing exactly what happened, being able to simply go in and take over and steal someone's booking. But remember, these are additional steps, these are additional measures. The best defense you can still do is don't post your booking information on the internet. Don't put it out there for anybody else to see, for anybody else to even attempt to take control of your booking. At the end of the day, that is still the best defense to prevent anybody from stealing your cruise. And finally, look, I know disembarkation is a terrible thing. Nobody wants to have to get off the ship. But I have a story of some cruise passengers. They were very angry, very disgruntled, very upset, and they absolutely refused to disembark the cruise ship. And after kind of hearing the story, I kind of get why. Now, we all know cruise ships can change itineraries over weather. That's normal. Bad weather, cruise ships got to avoid it. And by the cruise contract, you are not entitled to compensation due to itinerary changes that the cruise line can make. We all know that. That's pretty common knowledge out in the cruising sphere, in the cruising world. But how far does your itinerary have to change? How wrong does a cruise have to go before maybe the cruise line should do something a little bit different? Does it reach a point where the cruise is no longer essentially anything you booked, and maybe the cruise line should consider, compensating the passengers a little bit? Or how about in one of those cases where the cruise line, well, they don't even take you back to the embarkation port. So we are talking about the Costa Serena. Now, she was chartered to do cruises from Taiwan. And on July 21st, she was supposed to go on a 5-night sailing. She was going to do stops in Okinawa. She was going to do stops in Japan. And several days before the ship was sailed, the passengers were notified that there was going to be a typhoon heading into the region. And just like we have hurricanes here in the Caribbean, the cruise line, Costa Cruise Lines, adjusted the itinerary to stay out of the path of the typhoon. Normal cruising procedure, right? Now, once the cruise began, they had further itinerary changes due to the weather. One of their port stops had to be canceled altogether. They instead were given an additional sea day. They had one of their ports, the time was reduced for the amount of time they were in port, and they were given a $100 onboard credit. So we got weather, we got itinerary changes, and the cruise line still did provide them $100 of onboard credit. Now, on July 23rd, the weather continued to get worse. They decided at that point, time to cut the cruise short. We're done. We're heading back to port. The ship instead returned to disembark passengers on the 24th, one day earlier. However, this is where it gets a little bit interesting because it did take the cruise passengers back to Taiwan, which is where the cruise started, but at an entirely different cruise port, one that was 232 miles away from where they started. Now, the company that chartered the ship, they did provide rail transportation trains for the passengers to get back to the original port. They did also provide them one day's travel expenses for the cruise being cut short. However, when it was time to disembark, some of the passengers gathered in the atrium began essentially a revolt and refused to disembark the cruise ship. They were chanting, "Give me a refund, give me a refund." They wanted their money back refunded for this cruise because, look, this is not what they booked. And they weren't even taken back to where they started, and they feel that Costa Cruise Lines owes them a refund. Now, I'm going to show you a quick video clip of this revolt in the atrium. They did call it a revolt in the story, passengers refusing to get off the ship. But honestly, after looking at the video, I don't know. I don't know that revolt is even remotely close to what I would call this. More like a small gathering, I guess. You can hear the passengers yelling, repeating the same phrase over and over again, which translates into, "We want a refund, give me a refund." But I'll let you guys take a look and you can make your own judgment. And that is from the Costa Serena when she disembarked in Taiwan. So here is my question when it comes to this. I know weather changes cruises. We all know we have a cruise contract that says the cruise line can change your itinerary. But is there a point when the itinerary changes so drastically from what you booked, and then the ship drops you off in a different port that you started in, and you now have to travel by train to get back to where you're supposed to be? Is the cruise line responsible at this point for more than, say, $100 of onboard credit? Are these people right in asking for a refund? Should the cruise line automatically be refunding passengers in this type of situation? Are the passengers entitled to it? Is the cruise lines responsible? Or is it a case of this is the weather, itinerary changes happen, it's just all part of cruising? All right, and that is going to be our video for today. If you've enjoyed today's video, do me a favor and hit that like button. If you haven't done so yet, do me a favor and hit subscribe. It is free to do so. Helps our channel grow. Let you know anytime we put out a new video. Hope everyone out there is having a really great day. And like always, we will see you out on the high seas.